Hello, my name is Lyle. I want to talk to you today about something that in my own life really has made a difference. Just drawing out my own potential, realizing my own abilities, and really in subtle but important ways moving my life in the right direction. And that is abstinence from alcohol. Now, I don't mean dependency or alcoholism. I'm talking about just normal social drinking. And actually, these two drinks here are non-alcoholic, and they can replace something of what alcohol, some of the benefits of alcohol, and I'll explain that more towards the end of the video. I'm just going to put these down for a moment. So I've always kind of noticed in my own life that it seemed like when I was treading water and not really quite getting where I wanted to when I was younger, when I was in my 20s or so, I'm 52 now, it seemed like I was always doing social drinking at that time in my life. And then when I'd stopped drinking, I'd gained a little edge in mental clarity that I didn't always have. And, there was a time in my 20s where I was doing a lot of writing, a different type of writing than I do now, that, I thought initially, alcohol will make me less inhibited, I could write better. And yet I always found that I was more creative and more inventive when I didn't do any drinking at all. And then a little later in my life, I decided to go to graduate school. I was taking the graduate records exam, which is a very, very challenging exam. And I decided it's sort of like this prize fighter mentality that I would not drink during that time in my life to try and, do the very best that I can on that exam. And I also was taking a lot of fish oil at that time to sort of improve my brain function, which I think it did. And indeed, I did pretty well on that exam. And I think a sizable portion of that doing well on that exam was that I had that sort of prize fighter mentality, and I was not drinking any alcohol at that time to really make myself as sharp as possible for that part of my life, what I was doing. And then, after a little later than that, after that, I did go back again to drinking socially. There was the aspect of sort of the nuance and complexity, what it added to my food, the sort of sensual enjoyment to my food and dinner to add, wine and beer to it. And there's also the health benefits. Hops is actually a healthy thing to consume, as are the antioxidants and phenolics of red wine. So, there's some health benefits there and whatnot. But I also always noticed that there was always a subtle improvement in my mental clarity when I didn't drink alcohol. It's not something like somebody hitting you over the head with a hammer. It's very nuanced. It's very subtle. And it seems like it always takes about a month. Like you have to go completely without drinking at all for about a month. And when you do that, there is this small, subtle improvement in mental clarity. You're just a little more clear in your mind. I believe that you just in subtle, nuanced ways that at the time don't seem connected, but in the big picture they are connected. I just tend to make a little bit better decisions about things when my mind is a little more clear from not having alcohol in my system in the last month or so. Now, I wanted to go over the science just a little bit because that's important. I tried to dig in the literature on the science of this, and I kind of struggled with it. And there may be papers I missed. I did an imperfect search for scientific papers on this, but what I could find was there was a number of papers showing an association, not cause and effect, but association between drinking red wine and having a high IQ. And this is probably something to do with people who have a high IQ tend to gravitate towards things like red wine. It's not necessarily proving if you drink red wine, you will become high IQ. And I found many papers also looking at specifically alcoholism, alcohol dependency, and how the brain function of these individuals does improve when they quit. But in terms of like social drinkers, normal drinkers, people who are not dependent or have disorders, for these people, there is no papers that I could find at least showing an improvement in cognitive function. Now, what I would say to that is, I'm a scientist in my normal day job, and I can tell you that the only science that ever gets done is what the government pays for, unfortunately, even if it's really important things. So if there's no push by politicians to study people who are social drinkers to see what kind of IQ advantage they might get from it. They're not going to do those studies. They're not going to pay for it. And if they don't pay for it, it will not get done. It's only what gets paid for by the government that ever gets done as a scientist in science. And second of all, there may be issues with measurability. The improvement in cognitive function that I personally experience from not drinking, it's really subtle, really nuanced. And I have a suspicion that, at least with the tools we have now to look at these things, it may not be it may be outside the range of what's statistically significant or what scientific instruments can measure. So, the one area where the science is really clear is that there is a bigger cancer risk from drinking alcohol, even modest drinking of alcohol, even social drinking. You're increasing your risk for colon cancer, breast cancer, esophageal cancer, mouth cancer. So there's a real reason there. And now that I'm, a mid-late life stage, in my 50s, that's certainly something comes more in my mind is this worry about cancer. So that's definitely a good scientific reason not to drink, if nothing else. Now for me, there's a lot about my life stage that kind of determines where I'm at right now. The 50s, I'm 52. Your 50s are kind of like the sort of the last really good part of your life where you really can most realize your potential. Possibly you might have more likely have more health problems in 60s and 70s that might sneak up on you didn't expect. And those health problems might kind of degrade your quality of life a little bit. Sometimes it depends on each individual, of course. But, statistically, there's a lot to be said that sort of your 50s is like an important period in life where you can really contribute things to society and kind of realize your potential. And so right around the age of 48, 49, I actually don't remember the exact time because I didn't write it down at the time. I didn't notate it on a calendar. I didn't tell people. I just decided to stop drinking. And I didn't even tell people until much later that I'd made that decision. So I'm not quite sure the exact timing of it, but it was about 3 years ago, roughly, when I stopped drinking entirely. And I've just decided I never want to drink again socially. And I'm doing that because of where I'm at in my life. I want to realize my potential. I'm worried partly, my grandfather had Parkinson's disease, so I really want to have this neurotoxin called alcohol constantly being injected into my system. I might push my brain over the edge, for those kind of neurological issues that I don't want to experience. So, there's these reasons for myself personally. And so you might say, well, yeah, but red wine has a really high ORAC, which stands, it's an acronym. It just means how much antioxidants are in there. Or you might point out that, it really adds a lot to your life to drink alcohol because there's all these interesting, nuanced, complex flavors and things in it. So that's why I wanted to bring in these two drinks here. This is tart red cherry, which I drink every day with dinner, which I really quite enjoy. It has the same ORAC level or antioxidant level as red wine. So it's equivalent to red wine according to a paper that I was able to find. And I enjoy drinking this every night with my dinner. The other thing I enjoy drinking for a different reason is kombucha. Kombucha probably does have a number of health benefits. I'm not really sure. What I can tell you, though, is the flavor is amazing. It's very complex, very nuanced. It's non-alcoholic. I mean, there's a trace of alcohol in kombucha. I think it's less than 0.5% or something. But it has all that sort of mouthfeel and nuance and complexity that I missed with a nice glass of red wine. And when I'm looking for that sort of sensual experience of a nice drink, I turn to kombucha. And when I'm looking for the antioxidants and phenolics, I turn to tart red cherry. Now, of course, the phenolics in tart red cherry are different than red wine, but overall the antioxidant level is the same, actually. So I just wanted to suggest to you that, You might check out kombucha and tart red cherry juice. You might want to think about maybe what it could do for your life to give up alcohol entirely, even socially, and how you might gain just a little bit of clarity, a little edge, and it might just be what your life needs to bring it to the next level and realize your potential, as it has helped me to realize my potential. So with that, enjoy, thank you, and good night.